You're listening to the Life with Old Dogs podcast, and I'm your host, Dawn Mimnaugh, primary caretaker of all of our wonderful senior German Shepherds right here at Woody's Place Senior German Shepherd Sanctuary. This episode of the Life with Old Dogs podcast is brought to you by the good folks of KM Fitness and Nutrition, where they are empowering you to be happy, healthy, and well-balanced. Located inside the Moxie on Market Studio in the heart of Perkasie, Pennsylvania, you can join small group classes, receive personal training, and nutritional counseling by the best Bucks County has to offer. Contact them today to schedule your first class or your consultation at kmfitnessandnutrition.com or give them a call at 267-629-9624. Now, on to our episode. Hey there, this is Dawn here from the Life with Old Dogs podcast. Welcome back. This season, we are talking about taking care of yourself while taking care of your older German Shepherd. We discuss the importance of your physical health, mental well-being, and diet, and how it all ties into this big piece of the pie. So if you don't take care of one aspect, you're going to suffer in another aspect. Today, we have Colleen Mimnaugh on from KM Fitness and Nutrition. They are located in Perkasie, Pennsylvania. And Colleen is a nutritionist with a bachelor's in nutrition and dietetics and a master's in community nutrition. She is also a certified personal trainer, certified through the National Academy of Sports Medicine. And Colleen is prepared to design exercise and conditioning programs for folks like you who want to improve your well-being. Colleen, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's great having you here.
It.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, how you got interested in nutrition and personal training?
Sure. So when I went to college, I actually started in a exercise science field. With that, you have to take one nutrition class. I took that and I just fell in love. I realized that it's more important to have a base of nutrition and then kind of add on with that exercise than vice versa. So I decided to switch my major. I majored in nutrition and dietetics. And from there, I graduated with a bachelor's in that and then decided to get my personal training certification and just kind of went from there. So I co-own a company, KM Fitness and Nutrition, with my business partner and sister-in-law, Kristen. And we've been doing it for almost 4 years now.
Awesome. Awesome. Mm-hmm. That's great. And I have to say, you always look fantastic.
Thank you.
You're like the picture of health.
Oh, thank you. Well, I do work hard at it. So, when you are in the field, you don't want to be, a hypocrite. So you try to work hard at right. All aspects of your health. So your mental, your physical, and your spiritual health.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what we are discussing in this segment of the Life with Old Dogs podcast about taking care of yourself. Well, you should take care of yourself always, but especially taking care of yourself while you're caring for your older German Shepherd, because you at that point in time, you are a caregiver. And sometimes it's hard to lose sight that you need to take care of yourself.
Absolutely. And I apologize if you hear a little person. She is next to me. Her name is Quinn. She's my daughter. So if you do hear her, she is right next to me. So I apologize for that.
No apology needed. I often say, we're recording live from the sanctuary. And I always tell our listeners that you're going to hear a dog barking, you could hear chickens, whatever, like this is real life right here.
It is. And, with that work-life balance, a lot of times we find ourselves in a situation where I have someone next to me and also working. So I try to try to find both and try to find that work-life balance.
Right.
So sometimes that means just having an additive. Can you wave hi?
Hi, how are you? And you
Yeah.
also have dogs as well.
I do. I have 3 dogs.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how old are your dogs?
So we have Kyle. He is a husky, and he is 6. We have Bruce, who we rescued. He's a American Bulldog, and we think he's about 10. And then we have June, who's 4, and she is a Blue Heeler Australian Shepherd mix.
Okay.
So busy.
Are they active?
Only June is really our active one. I know huskies are typically supposed to be active, but Kyle is like the complete opposite of that. He's not high strung. He kind of lays around. Like right now, I can see him on the couch just sound asleep. He's very atypical, I guess you'd call him. Yeah. But June is very, very active. So when I do exercise and I can bring her along, she's an excellent companion for me. Because she's got all that energy.
Yeah.
So, and she likes to be challenged too, which I think, is important. And I'm sure you think it's important, like mentally, she likes to be challenged. So we do a lot of things to challenge her.
Yes, 100%. In fact, the second segment of this season is about just that. Then we're switching from taking care of yourself to taking care of your older dog, their mental well-being, diet, and physical aspect of it too. Because you're right, just because they get older doesn't necessarily mean they should just be laying on a bed somewhere 24/7.
Right.
They need to be mentally stimulated as well. Sure. And new experiences and stuff like that. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, she's adorable. Adorable.
Thank you.
So, so today you were kind enough to come up with a workout for our listeners to utilize. And I'm actually going to post this in the show notes if you don't mind. And I'm also going to post the information about your K&M Fitness and Nutrition. Oh my goodness, you have a cat too.
Yeah, that's Perseus. So he's obviously not shy.
No,
so.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you know, but we have 6 cats here. So sometimes there's a cat butt in the screen,
Yeah, that's look, he's like, why'd you just kick me off the table? I want to come back. But
you
stay
know
down,
what?
buddy.
I find it interesting because I've gotten comments from some of our listeners and about just that, and it's totally okay, and they think it's cute and they like to see it, and I kind of equate it to like someone looking through like a keyhole in the house, and they're like kind of getting a peek into what's actually going on.
Yeah. You get to take a peek into a organized but chaotic life that we live, but we love it no matter what.
How old's your kitty?
He's 10.
Oh, another senior. Wow.
Yes, he's 10, and we actually rescued him when we ended up having to bottle feed him. So we've had him since he was itty bitty.
Oh my goodness. Well, great job.
That's why he is the way he is, because he's been well taken care of.
Yeah, and you were his mom from the very beginning. So
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. So okay. So I'm definitely going to post the routine that you were so kind enough to give us. And so can you go through it a little bit for us? Do you have
Absolutely.
You can go through it. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get our listeners to get up and get moving a little bit more to strengthen their bodies so they are, first of all, healthy. We want them to be healthy for themselves, but we also want them to be strong so that they can take care of their older dog. Should their dog have mobility issues, as we were discussing off camera, if you have a dog with degenerative myelopathy, that's like ALS in people, and you're physically having to lift this 75, 80 pound or more dog, you need to have a strong back. You need to have strong shoulders, a strong neck, strong glutes. All of this is important because you are physically lifting this animal, and you can't afford to throw your back out.
Absolutely.
So,
and I talk with my clients all the time, even if it's their dog or even like one of their family members or friends. I always talk to them like, it's your health first, and I don't mean not taking care of that person or dog, but if you are unwell, there's no one to take care of that person you're trying to take care of. So, you have to really focus on your health while also taking care of that person or animal or whatever you need to do. So I 100% agree. You have to.
Yes. So I think most of the time, and I'm focusing on women here, because as I said, most of our listeners are women, predominantly 40 to 75 years old, and we are caretakers. We are naturally caretakers, and being a caretaker, whether you're caring for an older dog, children, grandchildren, a loved one who's incapacitated, we have a tendency to be selfless, and we're always right? I mean, Your mom, you have little kids, a business, dogs, cats, a husband, all kinds of stuff. I mean, I'm sure some days you probably wonder where you're even going to get 5 minutes to get a shower.
Right.
Right. Let alone
absolutely.
That you have to do. So sometimes I think we have a tendency to look at physical fitness as a luxury and not something that, it's something we should fit in if we have the time. But I don't think that's the way it should be. I think it's about taking care of yourself, and you need to make that time.
You definitely need to prioritize it.
Yeah.
Whether that's, you wake up early and you go and you prioritize by working out a little bit earlier in the day before work or after work. Or if you're not working, you're retired, it's just prioritizing, even if it's 30 minutes. I always say that the most underrated form of exercise is walking. And people think if they go for a walk, that's, they're just going for a walk. But if you go with an intention, like I want to go a certain distance or I want to, go a certain speed, that is an underrated form of exercise that you can do anywhere, anytime, as long as it's not raining or bad conditions. But that is like anyone can do that. We can all do that. So I definitely agree that you have to prioritize your health.
Right.
You have to.
And you can take your dog.
That's right. There it is. And your dog needs it too. I mean, I think a lot of dogs, especially with COVID, I have a client and a friend who's a vet, and she said some of them are really struggling because they were getting so much activity and so much attention. And then all of a sudden, people are starting to go back to work and their dogs are starting to suffer from that because they're not walking as much and not getting as much exercise. And, you have to prioritize your health, prioritize theirs. And if that means you do 30 minutes of your own workout and then a 30-minute walk with your dog, that, might be something that's important, or do the workout that I wrote.
Yes.
That kind of gives you a little bit of both.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And you're talking about walking. Sometimes maybe, people are so jammed packed that maybe they can't do 30 minutes at a time. So wouldn't it be okay to do like 15 minutes here?
Absolutely.
Right. Because it's still adds up.
Absolutely. If you're at work, if you can get away for 15 minutes and go walk, even if it's on the treadmill, if your work provides that, 10 minutes, do stairs for 5 minutes, anything helps.
Yes. So. Stairs. That's a big one.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And they're a challenge. I would say if you are not familiar with exercise or doing a lot of exercise, start with walking and then, work up to that. Stairs up and down are excellent for you. If you're talking about building glutes, building low back muscles, I mean, stairs are where it's at. But start slow. At KM, we're really focused on sustainability. So what we want is we don't want our clients to do this 180. So you go from not exercising, not moving, to all of a sudden you're coming to us and you're doing 5 days a week and you're doing an hour or 2 hours at a time. That's not sustainable. What we want is we want you to work up to maybe 5 days a week, maybe 4, whatever you can fit into your schedule. But we don't want you doing this complete spin because it just, 1, it opens you up for injury, and 2, it kind of burns you. So let's start, like you said, 15 minutes and build up from there, because then you also have a goal, right? So you start with 15 minutes and then let's say the next week you're like, you know what, I have a little bit more time. I really enjoyed that. Let's try 20 this time. And then all of a sudden you have these goals you're trying to reach and you're feeling better, you're feeling stronger. And all of a sudden you're up to an hour walk and you didn't even realize it.
Right.
Does that make sense? So,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let me ask you this. So we go to the gym, myself and Uncle Tristan. For those of you who don't know, Colleen's my niece. And so, and I'm sorry, Tristan and Uncle Ken, and we all go
hmm
to a gym. Um, the boys kind of just do strength training. That's it.
hmm
They're
hmm
deadlifting and all this other stuff. And I've told our listeners, I do cardio. Like I'll get on the elliptical, I'll do the
hmm
bike, I'm walking here, but then 3 days out of the week I'm doing resistance training as well, um,
hmm
because I think it's important to do both, not just one or the other. What are your thoughts on that?
100%. So what they say is they want you to do about 150 minutes per week-ish of some sort of moderate exercise. That would be the elliptical, the bike. You don't want to get your heart rate through the roof, but your heart wants to be pumping. You want to be sweating. 150 minutes sounds overwhelming, but it's really not. It's about 3 to 4 days of a 45-minute workout, and you can split it up. It doesn't have to be all in one set. And then they suggest, and I suggest between 2 to 3 weeks of 2 to 3 days of resistance training. Resistance training, especially as we age, is
Mhm.
huge. Um, it helps not only build muscle, but it also help or maintain muscle, but it also helps build strong bones. People don't realize that about resistance training, but that's what it's doing. It's also building bone density. As we age, we start to lose our bone density. So it's even more important as we go to continue with that strength training. Um, if you don't strength train, you kind of open yourself up more to things like osteoporosis, breaking a bone, which can be just detrimental to your health in the long run. So if you strength train, you really avoid those high risk things like osteoporosis and paralysis and bone fractures. Um, it just helps really prevent anything later in life that you may develop. It's not a cure, but it
Right.
will help.
Right.
Um, and a big thing about strength training that people don't really understand is it's a lot of core. Um, you're not specifically doing crunches and you're not doing sit-ups, but it does work a lot of your core muscles. And with that, that helps with balance. That
Right.
helps if you do fall, it helps with less of a fall. You ease yourself down. Um, and it's just so important to do that so that, you can keep, like you're saying, take care of your animals, take care of your loved ones or your family members. It's so important to keep that up. So 100%, I think both are really important. I mean, cardiovascularly, your heart and your lungs are both muscles. So it's really important also to keep up with them and to make sure that they're strong and that, your heart rate, it helps keep your heart rate a little lower and it helps with um, blood flow and inflammation. So I think both are really important. If you can do both, do both. Um, and weight training or resistance training could even be like band work. So if you don't have access to a gym or you don't have the funds to be able to go to a gym, I totally understand that. So, you buy these bands, they're about $20 on Amazon, and you can do a bunch of resistance training. And that still helps maintain, not as good as weight training would be, but it does still help maintain your muscle strength and helps maintain that bone density. So
Mhm.
I 100% agree.
Yeah, and all of that ties into what we're talking about. We have actually received dogs here at Woody's Place Senior German Shepherd Sanctuary because their owner did just that, fell, and then
Mhm,
ended up in a nursing home and couldn't care for their dog anymore. My mom is in a situation where she's in her mid 70s, and I mean, I love her to death, but she lives a very sedentary lifestyle and
mhm,
does not work out at all. And as a result, she falls a lot. And
mhm,
my sister and I are so concerned about that. In fact, we always, kind of joke and say, we're buying you bubble wrap and we're going to wrap you in bubble wrap because
mhm,
this is gonna end up costing eventually. So I look at that and I think to myself, well, um, why don't you go swimming, Mom? why don't you at least get in a pool, go to the YMCA. You're blessed to be in an area where you have all these facilities around you. Get in a pool, take some sort of, resistance class in the water, because she's always complaining about her knees and this, that, and the next thing. And I say, well, if you get in a pool, it's that water support.
Low impact, no impact.
Yeah, exactly. And just start there and then build your way up. So that, I think, is also great for our listeners to realize that you can swim in a pool too, and do some sort of resistance training in a pool if you have difficulty maintaining your balance right now. And then, like you said, stick with it and work your way up.
Absolutely.
And if it's hard to do by yourself, get a buddy, get a friend, and
always.
Right?
Yep. Statistically, it shows that if you do exercise, especially start out doing exercise with a friend, the likelihood that you'll stick with it is much, much higher than if you just do it alone. Even if that friend drops off, a lot of times you'll stick with it because it is intimidating. I mean, we're a women-only gym. We primarily work with women 40 to 70. We have some who are a little bit younger, some who are a little older, but we're primarily there. And there are still women who they'll email or they'll call us and they'll be like, I'm scared to death to come in. It's like, you're like, well, we're small and we're only women. And I couldn't imagine, and we can get them in and comfortable, but I couldn't imagine, telling someone to go into like a YMCA and go like, okay, well, there you go. Good luck. Like that is so scary for people. So if you at least do it with a buddy, even sign up to like meet with a wellness director or someone to get you a little bit more accustomed and acclimated to that setting, you may be more comfortable and you will stay. And that still goes along with that. You don't want to do this 180 transition. You want to be able to slowly work your way into a situation where you're comfortable, because otherwise when you're uncomfortable and you're trying to resistance train or work out, it's hard to do, and you're afraid people are judging you even though they probably aren't, and it's tough. And I mean, if you go with Uncle Ken and you go with Tristan, it's like, at least if you aren't super familiar with one of the exercises, they're there to help you out with that. And that's what I love about our company is we're small and we're close knit. So, and there's plenty of women who they've been with us a while, but they started from ground zero. And these women will come in and they'll be scared to death and they'll be like, hey, I was there. I was once there and look where I am and I feel so much better. And it just really helps. That support system is so important. It really is.
Cool. It's very true what you're saying. First of all, if you need motivation and you're Woody's Place listener, just look at your dog. That should be motivation enough. If you can't do it for yourself, look at your older German Shepherd. Look at the one you're caring for, and that you have to be healthy for that animal or person, and use that as a motivator. And you're 100% right. The gym, of course, we're 2.5 hours away, or I would be on a Colleen's gym. So we're not right now. But our gym is similar, and it's very small, and you can't not go in there and not see somebody that and end up spending a few minutes chatting with that person. But you're right, as far as going into a facility like that, especially if you're new to physical fitness, you're lost. Like, what does this machine do? How do I adjust the weights on this? Oh, wait, I have to raise this seat on this machine. I didn't even know I could do that. So it is best to start small, hire a trainer, a certified trainer like Colleen here, who can show you the ropes and help you feel more comfortable with what it is that you're doing, and also give you a routine like we're going to go through here in a minute to give you the confidence to continue to work out. Because if you don't have some sort of confidence in what you're doing, you're most likely not going to stick with it. You're going to probably say, hey, this is too much for me. I'm just going to go get coffee instead. Right. We do things that we're comfortable with, right? And I mean, I'm a big
fan of that saying, like, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. I 100% agree with that. But that doesn't mean you have to start right out of your comfort zone. You can start in your comfort zone and work your way out of that comfort zone. I don't expect someone who's just starting to run to sign up for a marathon.
Right.
That's not sustainable. So, you can start with that comfort zone of a 5K or a 10K and work your way up to maybe a marathon one day. But, you have to start in somewhat of comfortable setting, or else, like you said, it's just, you're going to end up not sticking with it, because we are beings who want to be comfortable and confident.
Oh,
so,
sure. We're creatures of habit. There's
absolutely.
no doubt about it. We're creatures of habit. But the thing is, when you're a caregiver, again, whether it's for an older dog or a person or a child, again, you have someone else depending on you. So it all comes back to taking care of yourself so you can take care of them. Ultimately, you should just be interested in taking care of yourself for yourself. But if you need that motivation, you can't wait until something goes horribly wrong to then be like, oh, geez, maybe I should get on the treadmill and do 30 minutes a day.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Let's start now so that doesn't come later.
Right. Right. And just a little story here. And I relayed this story in a podcast previous to this. And I'm not even sure if you're aware of this, but Uncle Ken was actually in a horrible accident in 2006. Where he had fallen off a roof, and he was in Temple ICU for a couple weeks and ended up in a hospital bed at home and in a wheelchair and walking with a cane. And it took almost a year for him to get back to what was his new normal. And the doctor at Temple told Grandmom and I that if Uncle Ken hadn't been in such good physical health, which he was, I mean, he was just like this wall of muscles, basically, but he probably would have died. So the fact that he was so physically fit actually gave him that little boost to fight through that horrible mess that he had to get through to get back to what was his new normal.
Right.
So physical fitness can actually save your life in that.
Absolutely. 100%. I remember my mother-in-law must have told me that he had broken his back. Ryan and I weren't yet together at that point, but I remember that. And then, he's in good physical shape now for his normal.
Oh, yes, yeah.
But 100% can save your life. And you may still break your back, you may still break a hip or whatever. But I think the huge part is also the recovery. I think recovery is huge when you have a lot of muscles and a lot of strength surrounding maybe that broken area, that broken back. Your recovery is so much, and I don't want to say easier in the sense of it's easy, but it's easier than that person who had nothing. Or like the doctor had said, he may not have made it. But because he was so strong and in such good physical shape, he was probably also really good mental shape. Knowing that he was in this good physical shape, I think that can really push you through some sort of injury that you have. So 100% and like I was saying before, like core strength is huge. Like when you slip, let's say on ice, we get ice, we get snow. If you slip, have you ever slipped and then you catch yourself? And you're like, oh, thank gosh, I caught myself. Well, that's your core strength. You have that good core strength to be able to catch yourself. If you don't have that, you fall, you break a hip, or you break, your back. It's you want to hope that you're in good shape to be able to get through that. Absolutely.
Sure. Absolutely. With older dogs, especially older, larger dogs, you're not even slipping on ice. Sometimes I'm literally tripping over them because, as even like, let's just say they're on a hardwood floor or a hard surface and their mobility is not great in their back. And sometimes their back legs splay out. And then they try to like catch themselves. I've actually tripped over their legs when they're splaying out and have fell myself. So, just tying it into older dogs, it's something as simple as that. You're trying to walk and here you end up tripping over this poor old dog who can't even get out of his own way. So
right.
You do need that. You do need that strength. And like you said, then if if God forbid something happens to you, hopefully that propels you through the whole process sooner, as opposed to if you're, kind of living that lifestyle where you're just, binging Netflix regularly and, just walking to go get the mail and that's it.
Right.
So
I had a client, she actually ended up having a stress fracture in her femur. And she goes to physical therapy right now, trying to strengthen and heal that. And the physical therapist told her, thank God you're in good shape. One, because you probably would have needed surgery. And two, you don't need to come to physical therapy near as often as someone who wasn't in this good of physical shape, because they kind of start from the bottom in this physical therapy, and you're already at level 5 or
yeah,
level 10,
great.
which is awesome.
Mhm.
But that all plays into that role of if you're in good physical shape, even if you have injury, because sometimes, unfortunately, it's inevitable.
Right.
Tripping over your dog or whatever it may be. If that ends up happening, you want to be able to be in good physical shape to be able to do the recovery you need, whether that's physical therapy or whatever it is.
Right.
I think it's the same thing for childbirth, though I know we're not in that age range where women are having children anymore. But like for me, I felt like my recovery from my 2 little girls was a little bit almost easier, in a sense of like by 4 weeks, I was like, okay, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do this, because
Yeah.
you're in good enough physical shape that you're like, all right, my body is not healed by any means, but I can start doing little things again. So
Yeah.
I think plays a big role.
I have to say though, when the times that you were expecting, I mean, you just kind of look like you swallowed a beach ball. Like nothing else changed about you at
Well,
all.
thank you.
Like
Thank you.
and then you
Appreciate
just
that.
had this cute little baby bump, and that was it.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm
Yes.
sure other moms were completely envious of you.
Yes. And they did tell me, oh, your physical shape will help your labor. And I can tell you they did not. I was induced with both, but it did help my recovery 100%. It helped
Yeah.
my recovery. So, I think, all aspects of life, whether you're young and you're thinking about having kids or having kids, or you're, out of that age of having kids and you're just taking care of senior dogs or anything, just trying to stay in physical health. I think, it's huge just to stay in shape, eat well, because, ultimately that's what's going to keep us thriving.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and who wants to just survive? We don't
Well,
want to
that's
just
true. You
survive.
want to thrive. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. But
Mhm.
you touched on diet too, and that was something else that we covered earlier in this season, was diet. And I'm a huge proponent of having a good diet, but I'm also a realist too, where I was saying to our listeners that, some days I'm out doing a bunch of real estate closings, and then I still have to come home and take care of 5 dogs, 6 cats, and a bunch of goats and chickens and an Uncle Ken. And I'm just so stressed that I'm just grabbing like my iced caramel latte and pounding down Reese peanut butter cups because I'm stress eating, and it's not
Mhm.
a good day.
It's just one of those days.
It is. And I believe in being a realist that sometimes there are going to be times like that in your life where it's not going to be perfect, but it's important to have a balance as well, where, okay, you had a crappy day, you ate all those things that you shouldn't have eaten, but next day focus on getting up and having breakfast prepared, taking something with you that's healthy and nutritious in your car instead of stopping at a Wawa and grabbing junk or whatever.
Mhm.
Like plan
Mhm.
ahead so that when these I'm just horrible at stress eating, so I go to that. But plan ahead so that those things don't creep up on you, and then you're not
Mhm.
grabbing something that's empty calorie, high sugar, full of fat and whatnot, because then you eat that stuff, and really food is fuel for your body, and
Mhm.
now you're loading yourself with just crap, sludge and whatnot, and it's going to affect your physical well-being. Like you're just going to feel like crap. You're not going to want to
Mhm.
feel like working out. So
Absolutely.
tied in.
I 100% agree that it is you have to be realistic with your diet. You can't always be regimented, strict, restricting, weighing, measuring. There are some days that are really crappy and you're not going to be able to eat, or you're not going to be able to get the foods in. I always say, like, I want you to eat good, healthy, whole foods most of the time. I want you to focus on your food. I want you to prioritize it. However, I don't want it to be the end all be all. If you want a piece of chocolate, or you have 3 pieces of chocolate because you just couldn't help yourself, okay, did it. What I usually do with my clients is I say, like, what were you thinking in that time? Let's talk about your stresses. What were they? Could we do something else to navigate you away from that chocolate or whatever it is, that glass of wine, whatever it is? But I always don't think that's the wrong answer either. There's this hormone, our stress hormone, it's called cortisol. Cortisol, when it is rising in your body, automatically it starts to store fat for you because you're stressed. Your body's in this, like, almost like this panic mode. So you start to store body fat. Now, I always say to my clients, what do you think's better? Having the piece of chocolate and just going on with your life and accepting that you had 1, 2, 3 pieces of chocolate, or eating it, then completely feeling guilty about it, stressing out that you did it, completely kind of over fixating on this, and then raising your cortisol levels, which is better. I mean, at the end of the day, I want your cortisol levels as low as possible, right? I want them working, I want them functional, but I do not want you so over restricting that when you do have a really bad day, those cortisol levels shoot through the roof because you had a bad day. Let's balance it. Let's add some of these good food, these yummy foods in. Don't completely get rid of them, because that's when that overindulgence ends up happening, in my opinion, is, I can't. And then one day you look at the Oreos and you eat a sleeve of them because you told yourself for 2 weeks that you're not going to eat any, where it's like, what would have been better, eating the sleeve of them at that point, or just allowing yourself an Oreo or 2 at the end of the day. I was talking about not doing that 180. That's like on our nutrition program, that's huge. You do not want to come to me and be like, okay, I want to completely change my whole diet. That's not how that works, because when I completely uproot your life and tell you need to start doing this and that, it's not sustainable. You're going to do it while you're with me for, let's say, 8, 16 weeks. And then life's going to happen, and kids need to go to soccer practice, and, Christmas is around the corner, and all this stuff starts to happen. And what happens? You revert back to your old habits, your old ways. So instead, let's look at your diet. Let's look at what you're doing, and let's just try to tweak things up. Let's see what we can add in. Like, a lot of my women, and probably your listeners who are in this 40 to 70 range, I can almost guarantee you, unless they're really paying attention to it, are not eating enough protein. I can almost guarantee it. Because we don't eat a lot of protein. And protein is essential for our diet, for our dogs' diets, for everyone's. I mean, it helps build muscle, helps maintain muscle. It helps with bone density. It helps with hormonal function. So a lot of times, if we just shift and alter a little bit of your diet, then all of a sudden it's a lot more maintainable. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes.
So, I 100% agree. You cannot be just like hyper focused in on always eating well, or else it's not going to work. And life's too short, honestly, to not have a Reese's cup or 2.
Right. Have that piece of cake. Have that wine freeze pop, right? Yeah.
Please have it. It's way too short to just eat fruits and vegetables and chicken. It is, enjoy yourself, enjoy the foods, enjoy the little things, or else. And most of the time, try to limit your refined sugars. Try to limit your alcohol intake if you can. Like, try to, but don't completely get rid of them if that's something you enjoy and you can, manage.
Right. Yeah. A long time ago, I had a doctor, and he was an old family doctor. And I mean, seriously, just this old doctor, who just was very full of common sense and wasn't loading people up on pills and stuff like that. And more or less a holistic doctor, but he was great. And he talked to me about that one time. And he said, if you feel like you're going to have some potato chips, he said, eat 4 or 5 potato chips. He said, who cares? He said, you don't want to go eating the whole bag, but eat, a few potato chips, because he said just what you just said. If you don't have a couple, obviously your body's craving them for some reason, probably the salt, most likely. Just have a few, because if you don't, then you're going to obsess over it.
Yeah. Think about it every day. Yeah. And, I always tell my clients, and some of them don't like to hear this, but it is scientifically, it's true. You have to overeat consistently to gain weight. It is what it is. You have to overeat the amount of calories, your body can make, handle consistently. And I'm talking like 2, 3, 4 weeks in order to see weight gain, in order to, feel like long-term effects. If you have a bad day and you only had your coffee and your Reese's Pieces, or Reese's Cups, you're going to feel like garbage the next day because you just filled yourself with garbage. But you go and you put yourself back on track and you're eating really well, the next day you start to feel better, and the next day. However, if you fall into the spiral where you're eating them every day, that's when it becomes a problem. It's consistency one way and it's consistency the other way. But I always call it a tightrope walk. We walk this tightrope walk where it's like, sometimes I want to go this way and have something, a little bit more enjoyable, taste a little bit savory or sweet. And then sometimes I'm like, no, you know what? I'm going to stick with my fruits and vegetables and, my meat today, whatever it is. So it really is about balance. Balance. So it's important to be able to do that.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, go ahead.
No, 100%. I agree.
And, food will help with, it's a big part of inflammation. So when you eat a lot of refined sugar and you eat, a lot of things that are like processed, you have a lot of inflammation in your joints. And if you're suffering from something like arthritis or even like an osteoporosis, the worse you eat, the more that's going to get aggravated, because the more inflammation you have in your joints. The better you eat, and again, maybe like an 80-20, the less likely you are to feel like inflamed and crappy and achy. And there's going to be days like today here is rainy. You're probably going to have a bad day. You're going to have an achy day. But moving around, getting a lot of circulation, and then eating an 80-20 diet is really what's going to help you feel better.
Right. I agree. And it's raining here as well. And even days like today, I still go out and walk the dogs. They'll probably get walked 5 or 6 times today. And it's short, frequent walks. Like we go out and we do like 20 minutes at a time, because they're all older dogs and nobody's running a marathon. And sometimes I just leave the door open because some don't want to come, and some do come out, and then they'll turn around and go back, and it's all good. We do the 80-20 here as well at our house. And I think, I do a lot of home cooking for the residents of Woody's place, and I do the exact same thing, an 80-20 split. Sometimes they're getting their kibble and can. Sometimes, I'll stop and I'll get them McDonald's cheeseburgers and surprise them with that. But most of the time, like you said, it's home cooked. And the same for Uncle Ken and I. We do a lot of home cooked because it's important to know. First of all, I get all goofy about food because I want to know exactly where my food's coming from. I want to know how much salt is in there. I don't want anything really pre-made or processed or anything like that, because me personally, I am just very, very whiffy about my food and where it's coming from and what it's been made with, and are they lying about it being, genetically modified or whatever. So I get really goofy about that.
Okay. That's okay. You can be goofy about that, but if it helps you in the long run and it helps your health, then nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. But let's get to this workout that you were so kind enough to design for our listeners. And again, I am going to post this in our show notes, and I'm also going to put it on social media with your contact information, like your links to Facebook and Instagram and all that.
Perfect.
Okay. So go ahead and tell us about this workout.
Sure. So, what I first suggest is you find a local park, a walking path, or a neighborhood if you live in one. I would really suggest that you're comfortable where it is. If you're not really familiar with anything in the area, what I would suggest is go to a local park, walk it a few times with your dog, become familiar with the area. I think it's huge for both you and your dog to be comfortable and know your surroundings. That just makes everyone feel better, everyone feel calmer. And also, I mean, your dog's going to sniff and pee and do everything every time you're there, but the more comfortable they are with the setting, I find like when I take June to our local park, every time we go, she's a little bit better. She's a little more comfortable. That's my dog. I don't know if I think I mentioned June, but yes. So anyways, so find your local park, a running path, a walking path, or a neighborhood. And what I would start out with is just start with, a 10-minute walk just to warm up, get yourself going, get your blood flowing, get your dog's blood flowing. From there, I have a 1/4 mile run /walk/jog, whichever you can do with your dog. If your dog can't handle the jog, then just walk. Maybe do a faster pace walk. I know you work with a lot of senior dogs, so do the best you can with how they're feeling. After you do a 1/4 mile run or jog, then I would stop. I would do 20 squats, then do 20 push-ups, then do 20 sit-ups. Or if you cannot do sit-ups, you can always replace them with high knees, which really works that core. So that's why we replace it. If you can't lay down, no problem. 20 walking lunges, your dog walks with you, and then a 1-minute plank. You'll put it in the show notes, but like I said, some of these exercises you may not be familiar with. That is fine. If you email us, I will 100% email you back with a video just like this, showing you form and showing you exactly how to do it, along with modifications to it. I also put in there a little additive. If your park has a bench, I added in 20 step-ups and 20 bench dips. Step-ups work your glute. I mean, we do steps a lot of times. Many people have steps in their house. Step-ups are excellent for you. And then 20 bench dips, which work your triceps, which is huge when you're picking up an animal.
Right.
Having strong arms, a strong chest is really important. And then I suggest doing this 8 rounds, which would give you about 2 miles walking. And then, adding up everything, it would give you 20, 40, 60, 80, 160 squats, push-ups, sit-ups, and walking lunges.
Wow.
Now, you'll see that I also do it so that we have modified version for anyone who's just starting out or that looks really, really intimidating. Don't do 8 rounds. Do 1 round, do 2 rounds. Please don't feel like you have to do all 8 rounds. It's just, that's really for people who are already physically active. Their dogs are physically active. However, if you're uncomfortable with that, I would recommend a 1/4 mile jog or walk, and then lower everything to 10. So 10 squats, 10 push-ups, 10 crunches, 10 reverse lunges rather than walking lunges, and then a 30-second plank. The reason I change it from walking lunges to reverse lunges is a lot of people have some knee problems.
Mm-hmm.
And doing walking lunges, sometimes if we don't have correct form, we go into our toes, which then puts a lot of pressure into our knees. So when you do a reverse lunge, you actually do the correct form, which is really going down into that 90-degree, coming up and using that glute, which is the primary muscle in a lunge.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would suggest doing that for 8 rounds or as many rounds you can do, up to 8.
Right.
So I do that with my dog June all the time. She loves it. And when I squat, I always have her sit and stand with me. Sit and stand just to get her moving, get her hips going a little bit more. And then the rest of them, I just have her rest. She usually lays in the shade and watches me. And then when I tell her it's ready to go, she's ready to run again. And now she's in good physical shape, so we can do this for 8 rounds. But we're going into winter, so we don't really have to worry about the hot. But when it's warm out, I either try to get her out super early, later at night, or we only do 2 rounds because it's too hot, and we don't want to overexert ourselves or overexert our dogs. So
yeah, absolutely. And also even with the modification, like you're saying, if somebody's new and maybe they can't even do 10, just do 5, just do what you can.
What you can.
Like you said, you don't want them doing that 180 because they might end up getting hurt or just not sticking with it. You're talking about the planks. So I do planks. And I'll tell you what, when I first started doing it, I mean, like 15 seconds was like, oh my gosh, I was shaking like a leaf. And it was crazy.
You can also do things like if your park or wherever you're at has a bench, you could also modify with that. So like you could put your hands on the bench and like flatten out your body into a plank, but you don't have to be on the ground. So for those who feel like they can't be on the ground, I 100% understand. I have plenty of modifications for that, especially if your park has a bench. You can do your push-ups like as an incline. You can do your plank in an incline. And then again, with those sit-ups, you just do high knees. There are plenty of exercises you can do without getting yourself on the ground. Now, however, if you are in decent or good physical shape, I do recommend getting on and off the ground because that is functional. We get up, we get down, we sit down with our dogs, we stand up with them. That is a completely functional movement that we do every day. So if you can kind of add that into your workout where you're sitting and you're standing, I find it really, really good for you because again, it's a functional movement. It's something we do all the time. Right. So don't just avoid it just to avoid it.
Oh, basically. Absolutely. Yeah. Use it or lose it, right?
That's right. That's right. I mean, even getting up off the couch. I mean, I have a lot of clients who are like, I remember getting off the couch and being like, using all my body weight to get up. And now it's like, I can just get up off the couch. Little things like that. If you don't use it, you lose it.
Right. So. And the same holds true for our dogs, whether they're older German Shepherds or younger Huskies or whatever, the same is true. If they don't get up and move frequently, they're going to lose it. So
absolutely. Yeah.
Active.
My dog Kyle's like that. If he's not moving, because I was saying he's a little lazy. So if we don't get him moving, it takes him a bit to get moving. And to a point where when it was rainy a couple weeks ago, they weren't really doing much. And he was hurting and we were like, okay, we got to get him out. He's got to get moving. Like he didn't even want to go out to go pee. I was like, no, like you got to get yourself moving. So it's same with us, same with our dogs. Like you have to make sure you're doing that for them, for us.
Yes.
Because I mean, circulation is so important to move and walk. And, when you talk about your mental health, to just move, to just go for a walk, that doesn't only help you. It definitely helps, your dog as well. So
yeah, absolutely. And I just want to touch on that for a second. And then I know you got to get going here, but, right. Of course, there are some days that it's no secret. Some days you just don't feel like working out and going to the gym. And you maybe need to talk yourself into that, right? Especially on a day like today. It's Monday. It's not even 50 degrees. It's crappy. All the leaves are on the ground. It's like, oh, I just want to hibernate, right? But today is a gym day for me, and I am going to be going. Do I feel like it? No, I don't feel like it. But you know what? I find that once I drag myself there and I actually start changing my physiology, like actually moving and doing stuff, I walk out feeling like $1 million. And then I think to myself, like, why was that so hard for me to get here? Why was my, my thought process so negative and just closed off? Because once I get there, I feel great. I walk out feeling great. And it's because I changed my physiology. I got up, I started doing something, right? the blood pumping, the oxygen flowing, all that stuff. And you walk out feeling like Beyonce, even though you're not even
your serotonin levels rise. You feel like $1,000,000. That's right.
Yeah.
It's huge. And what I say to that is, we can't always be motivated. So don't run off motivation only. I love motivation. I love when clients come in and they're ready to just like wreck a workout. I love that. But I also love the days that they walk in and they're like, I don't feel like being here. I'm like, but you're here. Like, that is huge. Those days are way, way, way more important to me than the days where you're feeling like you're ready to rip a workout. Like, I love those days too. But the days you come and you're disciplined enough to come and do the workout, even though you didn't feel like it, are huge. That's those little changes you need, because maybe this time last year you didn't do that. You kind of gave in. So that's that little change, that little discipline. And we don't run off motivation. We do, but we don't. You have to be disciplined. You have to, because if we ran off of only motivation, we'd only do things for a week or two and then drop them.
Right.
So, it's important to be able to be like, nope, I'm getting myself to the gym. I don't feel like it. You get that blood flowing and boom, you're like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I love this.
And you feel great knowing it's done. It's in the rear view mirror and you don't have to focus on it for another couple days.
Right. And you know what's even better when if you're going to do this exercises with your dog, it's such a nice, I find it such a great feeling to see June like in the car on the way home, like happy as can be. She feels like $1,000,000 because she just exercised, and she feels like that's such a good feeling to me to know like she's taken care of. So that's big too. Like, it doesn't only help us, it does help them. So look at your dog and their demeanor after you've gone for a walk or done this exercise with them. I bet you their demeanor is just thankful at the end of the day. So I find it important to do. So even when you don't want to.
Even when you want, yes, exactly.
People tell me that all the time. They're like, oh, you're so lucky because you love to exercise. So you're so lucky because you love it. And I do. I can't lie. I love exercise. But that doesn't mean I always want to do it. That doesn't mean I'm always like, oh, I can't wait we have a gym in our basement. I can't wait to go downstairs and work out every single day. Like, it doesn't work that way. Some days it's like, all right, I got to go and do this. I just do.
It's just a job, right?
Right.
Right. Yeah. Oftentimes people think I love every single dog, and I don't love every single dog. I just don't. I mean, it's sad to say, but there are times where I'm in a shelter and I'm doing something and, I'm with a really difficult dog. And it's like, I don't love that dog.
Right. Yeah. But you have to do it.
Exactly. Am I going to help? Am I going to do what I have to do? 100%. But it doesn't mean that I just like want to cuddle and squeeze and hug every single dog. Right. So I get where you're coming from. It's because you make it look so easy. And you always have that big smile on your face. Must just assume.
Like we say, it makes you feel good. So it's just like, there's days you don't always like PR. You don't always get your personal records for things. There's some days you're just grinding out to get to that personal record. But like some days I'll post like my personal records of squats or chest press, and people are like taken away by that. But meanwhile, like the last time I posted this was February. So February to now, I've just been grinding, trying to get to that. So it's like you guys, all of us, we forget that in between. We forget all those hours that you don't document, because I just don't document everything, but like you don't document them. So people sometimes, I say social media is great, but it's also kind of can be our demise, right? Because you look at someone and you're like, man, she's always killing it. No, I'm only posting the ones I'm killing it, but look how far apart they are from one another. Like, everyone has struggles, but these hours in between are what made me get to this next point. And I think people they forget about that. They forget that there's a lot of hours you're grinding in between.
Yeah.
That, that's like I was saying, like that discipline to come in the days you don't want to, that's what makes you. That's what gets you to where you need to be. Um, and there's a lot of mental and emotional health behind that I will not get into because I'll be here another hour. But but there's a lot of like you also have to listen to your body and its recovery, and you have to listen to your mind and make sure, you know, you're doing what's right for you, whether that's sometimes maybe it is a rest day. Sometimes that 100% is what you need. A lot of times it probably is you just got to get your butt to the gym and feel it. Just depends on the day. So
yeah, the part you're talking about there about people not seeing, I call that the messy middle.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
it's the
start
messy
using
middle.
that. The messy
Sure.
middle.
Right.
And it's a thing. I mean, people don't, and you know, that's why social media can be a little bit of a hard thing to have, because you just see everyone, it's their highlight reel, right? That's what people say. It's everything that's good about life, and that's why they're posting it, and they have every right to do that, but you're not seeing the hard work behind that or the hardships behind that. So, you know, always keep that in mind. Right?
Yes. Show the messy middle. About a year ago, I decided with Woody's Place that I actually professed to it that I was going to be more real on our social media. And I actually posted a video of Jared, a German Shepherd who's now deceased, who was disabled, and he was freaking out during a thunderstorm. And he was like dragging himself up into my bed because he was so scared. And I got out and I hoisted him up and I video recorded it. And I said, you know, this is really what's happening. That was met with such great response. And people were saying, yeah, I want to see more of this because that happens to me as well. And I want to know, what am I supposed to do? What can I do at that point in time? You know what? I was in my pajamas. I looked terrible. But at the end of the day, if it helps somebody, then great. That's what it was about. I did. And I just decided I'm going to be more real because you're right. And this is down a little rabbit trail here and off the subject, but social media is very glossed over. Not just with I'm going to show my best shot, but now I'm going to edit and crop and add filters and smooth my skin out, you know, and all this other stuff. And it can be very artificial. After a while. And, you know, we have people, both you and I, women in the same age group, and they're looking at these workouts and they're thinking, well, I'm never going to look like that because here's this person doing it in her late teens or early 20s who's never had kids. And it's this little, you know, stick model or whatever. Well, how is a woman like my age supposed to relate to that? I'm just going to walk away feeling badly about myself because never, ever am I going to look like that again. So,
and that's a huge thing about that community, right? That we were talking about earlier is like when you have like this community behind you. And like I say for KM, like you can come in and you have women of like age and maybe physical features. And then and then you see that they're strong and that they're working really hard and then they're like, well, I was in your shoes at one point. It makes you feel like, okay, I can get to the next step. I can keep doing this. When you are only on social media and you're seeing these young girls do this stuff, it's like, oh, well, what's the point of even trying? And we don't want that. And we don't want that. You know, we want you to feel comfortable. And a huge thing is confident. Like confidence is huge. I mean, I want you to walk into the gym and, you know, feel like you can do anything. And even if you can't, like, we're going to work at it. So
it's about feeling good about yourself. It is about being physically healthy, but also about feeling good about yourself and not comparing yourself to somebody who you're never going to be, you know, we're all at a different stage of life.
Absolutely.
That's what it comes down to. And the reality is, you know, some of us will never be a size 2 again, but that's okay because I can be a size 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 or 15, 20, whatever, and be healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like your body in a size 2 didn't go through what it did when you're now a size 12 or 15. Like, and I think that's hard and I talk about this to my clients a lot. Like, you are comparing yourself to your, let's say, high school body.
Yeah.
Like, and that makes me like kind of roll my eyes because I'm like, you didn't go through near what you like have gone through now in that high school body. You maybe kids, college, careers, maybe breakups, getting married, whatever it is. Like
Time.
Time, and a lot of things go through that time. Happiness, sadness. Like your body has gone through a lot, so give it some credit because it's gotten you this far.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, that doesn't mean I want you to let yourself go. I still want you to take care of yourself, but do not compare your, high school body to now, because that'll just make me go way off on a topic of, like, your body just, it goes through a lot. Give it some credit.
I love,
Having kids, give
that.
it some credit. Like,
Absolutely.
it's done a lot. So why do you gotta love it. And sometimes that's hard. Sometimes it's hard to love your body, but it's important that you do, because when we love our bodies, that's when we want to change it. That's when we want to feel good.
Oh, that's when we want to take care of it.
Right. When you don't like it, it's like, whatever, like, I'll starve myself, or I'll over exercise, or do that. That indicates not a very loving feeling. When you're like, okay, I'm going to start taking care of it, and this is how I'm going to do it. That indicates love. I mean, you wouldn't starve your partner. You wouldn't starve your dog, right? For them. So it's the same thing. What would you do if you went to the vet and your vet was like, your dog has 10, 20 pounds to lose? What would you do? Okay, well, they do need to start exercising. We have to cut back on treats or whatever it is. Like, do the same for yourself and do these slow cutbacks. And start to exercise. So, a lot of times it's like, how would you treat, the something that you love? If you wouldn't do it, why are you doing it to yourself?
Yes. Right. Absolutely. Well, Colleen,
yeah.
It's been great. This has been
this is wonderful.
Having you on here, and I'm sure our listeners are going to glean a whole lot of information out of this from you. You've just been fantastic. So, Colleen, if our listeners, and we do have quite a few listeners in the Bucks and Montgomery County and Philadelphia, even areas, if they want to find you, where can they find you?
So they can find me, you mean contact-wise?
Well, contact-wise, your fitness
address?
Yeah.
Okay.
All of it.
So we're KM Fitness and Nutrition. We're located in the heart of Perkasie, Pennsylvania. We are on Market Street. If they want to come and visit, they can contact me via my phone number, 267-629-9624. Leave me a voicemail, because I probably won't answer the first time, to be honest. So leave me a voicemail, please. And then if they don't like phone calls, no problem. They can contact us via our email, which is kmfitnessandnutrition@gmail.com. Our first class is free. So if they're interested in our classes, our first class is free. Just email me, call me, tell me you want to come in. We'll give you our schedule and they can try out a class. If they're interested in nutrition or personal training, we can set that up.
Okay, great. And I know you're on Instagram. Are you on Facebook as well?
Yep, Instagram and Facebook.
Okay. All right. I'll get that information from you after we're done recording, because I want to put that in the show notes as well. And if anybody decides that they would like to take Colleen up on her offer for the first class free, let them know you heard about this information on this podcast, Life with Old Dogs. All right. All right.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you, Colleen.
Perfect.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have
Take
a great
care.
day.
You too.
Bye.